Hello students, how are you all today? This is Ashar Khan, your geography teacher from Shiv Jyoti Educational Group Kota. So students, today we are starting a new chapter of geography, that is chapter number 14. The name of the chapter is Movements of Ocean Water. So open your books on page number 116 so that we may begin this chapter. Keep your pencil ready in your hand as well, because we will be underlining a lot of important bits. So students, as the name suggests, in this chapter we are going to learn about the different ways in which the ocean water moves. Okay, so in this video we are learning about waves and characteristics of waves, then tides and types of tides. So students, let us begin. As you can see, it is written here, the ocean water is dynamic. What is dynamic? That means the ocean water is ever changing, it is not still. Okay, so its physical characteristics like temperature, salinity, salinity means the amount of salt it has in it, density, and the external forces like that of the sun, moon and the wind influence the movements of ocean water. So there are a lot of things which influence the movements of ocean water. So let us see how many types of movements are there in the ocean water. Now, there are basically two types of movement, that is the horizontal movement and the vertical motions. Okay, we have a horizontal motions here and then we have the vertical motions. Okay. Now the horizontal motion refers to the ocean currents and waves. Okay. Now in this particular movement, the horizontal, the water will be flowing in a horizontal manner. But tides are vertical. That means the water will be flowing in upwards and downwards direction. Now, the vertical motion refers to tides. Ocean currents are the continuous flow of huge amount of water in a definite direction, while the waves are the horizontal motion of water. Underline this part, that the ocean currents are the continuous flow of huge amounts of water in a definite direction. That means the direction of the ocean currents are same. Okay, they don't change. While the waves are the horizontal motion of water, water moves ahead from one place to another through ocean currents, while the water in the waves does not move, but the wave trains move ahead. What does this mean? We will understand with the help of a diagram in a minute. Now, the vertical motion refers to the rise and fall of water in the oceans and seas, that is the tides. Due to the attraction of the sun and the moon, the ocean water is raised up and falls down twice a day. What happened during tides is that twice a day the ocean water rises up and then it falls down in a vertical direction. The upwelling of cold water from subsurface and the sinking of surface water are also forms of vertical motion of ocean water. Okay, so these are also the forms of ocean water. So we have learned that there are movements of ocean water, that is waves, ocean currents and tides. Waves and ocean currents are horizontal motion and tides are the vertical motion. Let us move ahead. Now as you can see, waves. Waves are the undulation formed on the surface of water bodies. We have all seen waves in movies, or if you have visited a beach, you might have seen waves personally. So let us read the paragraph waves now. Waves are actually the energy and not the water as such which moves across the ocean surfaces. That when waves are formed, it is not the water which moves, but the energy which is flowing through the water. Now water particles only travel in a small circle as a wave passes. Now this line here is very important. Wind provides energy to the waves. Okay. What factor causes waves to rise up and flow? It is the wind. Okay. Wind pushes the water towards the shore. Wind causes waves to travel in the ocean and the energy is released on shorelines. Underline till shorelines, that it is the wind which causes the water to form in the ocean. Okay, it causes waves to form in the ocean and then it pushes those waves towards the shoreline, which is the coast, the land part. Okay. The motion of the surface water seldom affects the stagnant deep bottom water of the ocean. Now it is important to note that when waves are formed, it only affects the surface of the water. The bottom part of the ocean remains unchanged. Okay, the bottom part of the ocean changes only when there is a movement inside it caused by the sea creatures. Now, as a wave approaches the beach, it slows down. When the wave approaches the beach, it slows down because the friction which occurs between the dynamic water and the sea floor. Okay, so as the wave, it will approach the land part, when it will approach the beach, the coastline, it will slow down and dissipate. Now, as I just told you, that waves is not actually the water which is flowing, it is the energy okay? And from where does the energy is getting derived from? It is getting it from the wind part. Now, and when the depth of the water is less than half the wavelength of the wave breaks. The largest waves are found in the open ocean. Underline this here as well, that the largest waves you will see are found in the open oceans. Waves continue to grow larger as they move and absorb energy from the wind. Now the waves, they will continue to grow larger as they receive more energy from the wind, okay? Now let us see what factors causes the movement of waves. Now, so let's see formation of wave, how waves are formed. Now this is a still ocean water. We all know that the ocean water is never still. But just for example, just for learning purpose, we have imagined an ocean water body which is still. Now what will happen? The wind, when it blows, it will push the water forwards in the direction where the wind is blowing, okay? See, ripples are formed across the surface as the wind is blowing, as you can see here. Now, if the wind is greater in velocity, that means larger waves will be formed, okay, which will result in storm and cyclones. And if the wind is really large, really big, then it will be resulting in the formation of large waves, okay. So this is how the waves are formed by the winds. Now let us see this particular thing here. As you can see, the water is moving in a circular motion, okay. Let us read. Now, as we have seen, most of the waves are caused by the winds driving against water. When a breeze of 2 knots or less blows over calm water, small ripples form and grow as the wind speed increases until White Cape appears in the breaking waves. Waves may travel thousands of kilometers before rolling ashore, breaking and dissolving as surf. So the waves can travel thousands of miles before they reach a land part and then they disappear. Now, a wave's size and shape reveal its origin. Okay, the size and the shape of the wave will reveal from where it is coming from. Steep waves are fairly young ones and are probably formed by local wind. Steep waves means waves which are not greater in height. Here you can see there are steady waves and steep waves. Now, steep waves are fairly young ones and are probably formed by the local wind. Now, slow and steady waves, they originate from far places, probably from another hemisphere. The maximum wave height is determined by the strength of the wind. Underline here, on which factor is the wave height depends on. Okay, the height of the wave, it depends on the strength of the wind, that is how long it blows, and the area over which it blows in a single direction. Okay, so these are the types of sea waves, that is steep waves and steady waves. Now, the maximum wave height is determined by the strength of the wind, how long it blows, and the area over which it blows in a single direction. Now, water travel because wind pushes the water body in its course while gravity pulls the crest of the waves downward. Now, when water travels, what happens? That the wind pushes it forward, but there is another force on earth which pulls the rising water down, that is the gravitational force, the force which is responsible for sticking us all to the surface of the earth. Now, the falling water pushes the former troughs upward and the waves move to a new position. Now, the water which will fall down, it will push the water ahead upwards because of Newton's third law of motion. The actual motion of the water beneath the waves is circular. It indicates that things are carried up and forward as the wave approaches and down and back as it passes. Now, we are learning about the characteristics of waves. What are the different formation of waves? So students, now let us discuss the characteristics of waves. Now, as you can see here, the blue line depicts the wave, the wave which is formed in the water. Now, we are going to learn about these points which are given here. First, let us learn what are crest and trough. As you can see in this diagram, students, crest is the topmost point of a wave. Now, a crest is the topmost point of a wave and the trough is the lowermost point of the wave. Now, next one is wave height. It is the vertical distance from the bottom of a trough to the top of the crest. Now, from the top of the crest to the bottom of the trough. The height is called the wave height. Means the distance, the vertical distance between a crest and a trough is called wave height. Now, wave amplitude, it is 1/2 of the wave height. When we divide the wave height, we get amplitude. Okay, that is the wave amplitude, which is half of the height. Then we have wave period. It is merely the time interval between two successive wave crest or trough as they pass a fixed point. Now, how do we calculate the wave period? Now, how do we calculate the wave period? Now, wave period, it is merely the time interval between two successive crests or troughs as they pass a fixed point. Now, supposedly there is a point here. Okay, the time period which it will take for two crests to pass this point will be called wave period. Okay, the much time it will take for two crests or two troughs to pass this one particular fixed point is called the wave period. Now, next is length. Wavelength. Okay, wavelength is the horizontal distance between two successive crests. As you can see here, we take two successive crests, first one and the second one. The distance between two successive crests is called the wavelength of a wave. Now, wave speed, it is the rate at which the wave moves through the water and is measured in knots. Now, what is a knot? Okay, the knots, okay, it is the unit which we use to measure speed of a wave. Just for your convenience, I am writing here. 1 knot is equal to 1.852 kilometer per hour. Okay, so I hope you remember this. That what is a knot? It is 1.8 kilometer per hour, almost 2 kilometer per hour. Now, next we have is wave frequency. It is the number of waves passing a given point during a 1 second time interval. Now, we take a point here. How many waves will pass through this point in 1 second is called the wave frequency. So, students, these were the characteristics of waves. I hope you understood it well. Now, our next topic that we are discussing in this video is tides. So, let us move on to that. So, students, let us begin our next topic, which is tides. Up until now, we have discovered waves. That was one of the horizontal motion, and now we are discussing a vertical motion of the water, in which the water will not move in a horizontal direction. Instead, it will rise upwards in a vertical direction. Okay, so that movement of the water is called tides. Now, let us see. The periodical rise and fall of the sea level once or twice a day, mainly due to the attraction of the sun and the moon, is called the tide. Underline this. This is the definition of tide. That the periodical rise and fall of the sea level. What happens? The sea level, it rises and it falls down. Okay, that is called a tide. It happens due to the attraction of the sun and the moon. What happens is that the sun and the moon, they exert a force on our surface of the earth, their own gravity, right? Every heavenly body has their own gravity. Our earth has gravity as well as the moon and the sun. Okay, now what happens is these two bodies exert gravitational forces on the surface of the earth, due to which the water, which is dynamic, which is easy to change, it rises upwards. Movements of water caused by meteorological effect, that is wind and atmospheric pressure effects, are called surges. Surges are not regular like tides. The study of tides is very complex. It is a complex subject, tides, okay, spatially and temporally, as it has great variation in frequency, magnitude and height. Now, let us discuss why tides are caused. Now, tides are caused due to the attraction of the sun and the moon. The moon's gravitational pull to a great extent and to a lesser extent the sun's gravitational pull are the major causes for the occurrence of tides. Now, you will ask me that, sir, the sun is a larger body, correct? That our sun is much larger than our moon. Why does it is written in the book that the sun will have a lesser extent on the surface of the earth and the moon will have a greater extent? Obviously, it is correct. The sun is very, very, very far away from us as compared to the moon. Okay. Now, because of that distance, okay, the moon's gravitational pull on the earth will be greater as compared to the sun, because the sun is far and the moon is near. As you can see, there is a picture of high tide and low tide. Okay, what is high tide? High tide, the moon or the sun attracts water, and low tide, they give it back. Now, what causes tides? First, that we have already discovered one force, that is the gravitational force of the sun and the moon. Now, there is another force which acts on the surface of the water, that is the centrifugal force. What is the centrifugal force, you will ask? The centrifugal force is the force which exerts pressure on the moving object, Okay, supposedly you tie a string on a piece of rock and then you rotate it. In which direction it will go? When you release the string, it will go in the outer direction. Similarly, our earth is continuously rotating, as we already know. What happens is the centrifugal force acts on all the people, on all the objects present on the surface of the earth, and it tries to throw them out of the surface of the earth because our earth is moving. But because our gravitational force is much more stronger than the centrifugal force, we stick to the surface. But it does not apply to water, because water is easy to change. Water is always changing as compared to the solids, that is us, plants, animals and other objects. Now, together the gravitational pull and the centrifugal force are responsible for creating the two major tidal bulges on the earth. On the side of the earth facing the moon, as you can see, here they are, moon's and sun's gravitational pull, which are the major causes. Now gravitational force from the sun is being exerted and gravitational force from the moon is being exerted. Okay. And both the way you will see bulges of water are formed, in which the water is being forced upwards towards the heavenly bodies. Now centrifugal force, as I told you, it is the force which throws an object, a moving object outwards. Okay, as you can see, because our earth is continuously rotating, water from the surface will be thrown out. But because the gravity is much more stronger than the centrifugal force, it will keep the water. That is the tidal bulge, which you will see. Now here you can see the relationship between the gravitational and centrifugal forces and tide. The diagram is given in your book as well. See now, the tide generating force is the difference between these two forces, that is the gravitational attraction of the moon and the centrifugal force. Underline this. On the surface of the earth nearest the moon, pull or the attraction force of the moon is greater than the centrifugal force, and so there is a net force causing a bulge towards the moon. Now what is happening? See now, first, earth is here and the moon is here. The moon will exert pressure, the moon will exert gravity on earth. Because of that, what will happen? The water will be forced to rise up, because it will get attracted towards the moon's gravity. Okay, a bulge of water is created. Okay, it has been exaggerated here in this diagram just to show you इतना ज़्यादा पानी ऊपर नहीं उठता है. Okay, now gravitational force. Okay, now what will happen? The balance point or center of mass of the earth moon system, all the water which is rising from this area, correct? Now in this area, the area which is away from the moon, what will happen? Centrifugal force will take place and another bulge of water will be created in the opposite direction. So you will see two resultant bulges of water are formed because of the moon's gravity and the centrifugal force. Both will act together and they will result in the formation of two high tides and two low tides. Okay. Now it is given in your book as well. The highest tides in the world occur in the Bay of Fundy in Nova Scotia, Canada. Okay, the highest tide you will see, the water rises up to the level of 14 to 15 meter, which is very high. Now students, come to our next topic, which is the types of tide. So come to page number 118 and we will discuss the types of tides. There are the types of tides are grouped into various waves, that is on the basis of frequency, on the basis of position and on the basis of the distance. Let us discuss one by one. So first we will start with the basis of frequency. Okay. Now on the basis of frequency, tides are divided into three parts, that is the mixed tide, the semi-diurnal tide and the diurnal tide. So let us first discuss the semi-diurnal part, which is given in your book as well. Now, as you can see, in a semi-diurnal tide, it will experience two high tide, as you can see here, and two low tide, as you can see in the diagram. Okay, two waves of water will rise up. Okay, the successive high or low tides are approximately of the same height. Now, the high tide which are rising up now, they will have the same height as compared to the low tide. Okay, both the high tide and both the low tide will have the same height or depth. Usually a semi-diurnal tide is formed on many areas on the eastern coast of North America. They will experience these tidal cycles. Okay, a semi-diurnal tide. Now our next topic is a diurnal tide. There is only one high tide and one low tide during each day. Okay, so there will be one high tide and one low tide, as you can see here. The successive high and low tides are approximately of the same height. Okay, the much water it will rise up, the depth will be created of the same height. It is easy to understand. Where they are formed? They are formed in the Gulf of Mexico, which experience this type of tide. Next we have is the mixed tide. Okay, now mixed tide. Tides having variation in height are known as mixed tides. Now these are the tides which have variation in height. For example, the high tide here, as you can see, are of different height. One tide is of greater height as compared to another. Similar things can be seen in the low tide as well. One's depth is much more lower than the other. Another depth is greater. These tides generally occur along the west coast of North America and on many islands of the Pacific Ocean. Now, the second type of tide, the tide which is based on height. Okay, in your book it is written tides based on the sun, moon and the earth position, but here it is written tide based on height, so don't get confused. Now the height of the rising water, high tide, varies appreciably depending upon the position of the sun and moon with respect of the earth. Spring tides and neap tides come under this category. So the next types of two tides that we are learning, it depends on height. Okay, how much the water is rising. They are called spring tide and neap tide. So let us learn about them. Now, formation of tides based on the position of the sun and the moon. Now, as you can see here, it is given clearly. Come to the second paragraph of neap tides first. Normally, there is a 7-day interval between a spring tide and neap tide. Now, during a neap tide, what will happen? As you can see, the sun, the earth and the moon, okay, they will form an angle of 90 degree, as you can see. Correct? A 90-degree angle will be formed. Okay. Now, in this position, what will happen? Both the sun and the moon will force their gravity on earth. Okay, both of them will exert gravity on the surface of the earth and they will force the water to rise up. But a very interesting thing will happen here. That is, at this time the sun and the moon are at right angles to each other and the forces of the sun and the moon tend to counteract one another. The moon's attraction, though more than twice as strong as the sun's, is diminished by the counteracting force of the sun's gravitational pull. Now, because of this particular incident, that the sun and the moon are at right angle with each other, they will cancel out their own gravity and it will result in the tide which is very, very low in height. Okay, as you can see, the angle which is formed here is 90 degrees. Now, moon, earth and sun, they make a right angle with each other and the tides which will form on this particular day, okay, it will be a low tide. Okay, the variation of the height will be very, very low. Now, what will happen on the next tide, that is the spring tide? Now, the moon will travel. Okay, after 7 days, what will happen? The moon will travel from its initial place to another place, the second place. Now, what will happen? As you can see, that the moon, earth and the sun are in a straight line. Okay, now what will happen now? Let us read. Come to spring tides. The position of both the sun and the moon in relation to the earth has direct bearing on tide height. When the sun, the moon and the earth are in a straight line, the height of the tide will be higher. When the sun and the moon are in a straight line, the tides will be higher. These are called spring tides and they occur twice a month, one on the full moon period and another during new moon period. Now, as you can see, since they are in a straight line, what will happen is they will combine their own gravitational forces and they will have much larger force on the surface of the earth. That means they will be able to attract the water to a much larger height. Okay, so these are called spring tides, which forms when the sun, earth and moon are in a straight line. Okay, now after 7 days, what will happen? The moon will travel to this area. Okay, and neap tide will take place. So in a month we have 2 neap tides and 2 spring tides. Okay, another neap tide will take place because again the moon will make a 90-degree angle with the earth and the sun, and another spring tide will take place when the sun and the moon and the earth will be in straight line. So I hope you understand. So every 7 days we will have a neap tide and another 7 days we will have a spring tide, okay, which tells us that the moon takes 28 days in total to complete one rotation, one revolution around the surface of the earth. Now, the next type of tides that we have is the tides based on distance. In the previous students, if you will remember, in chapter number 9, we learnt about perihelion and aphelion, correct? Which is the phenomena of the earth which is at the longest height. Okay, the perihelion, which means near the surface of the sun, and aphelion, which is farther from the sun. Now, same thing happens they affect the tides as well. What happens? Distance from the sun, that is perihelion and aphelion, and distance from the moon, perigean and apogeian. Let us discuss. Now, what is happening here? Perihelion on the 3rd of January. What will happen? The earth is closest to the sun and the tidal ranges are much greater with unusually high and low tides. Okay. The sun on the perihelion will be closer, it will be able to exert a much larger force of attraction and we will experience unusually high and low tides. But during aphelion, when the sun is farther, what will happen? On 4th of July, earth is farthest from sun and the tidal ranges are much less than average because the sun's gravitational pull will be weaker when the earth is farthest from the sun. So this is called the perihelion and aphelion, and how it affects the tide. On perihelion, we will have unusually high and low tides, and on aphelion we will have average heights of tide because the earth is far. Now, as for apogee and perigee, that is the distance from the moon. Now what will happen? Perigean tides. Moon is closest to earth, forming higher ranges of tide. Once a month the moon is closest to the surface of the earth, okay, and that will result in a perigean tides. On that day what will happen? There will be a greater amount of height. And on apogeian tide, when the moon is farthest from the earth and the tidal ranges will be very, very low. Okay, these happens 2 times a month. Now, the time between the high tide and low tide when the water level is falling is called the ebb. What is an ebb? Underline this. It is the time between the high tide and low tide when the water level is falling. Okay, it is called the ebb, and the time between the low tide and high tide when the water is rising is called the flow or flood. So students, in our next video, we will be completing the rest of the chapter. Until then, take care. Thank you.